Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the India Today Conclave 2021. 2021 has seen an intense churning in our politics, not so much at the center, but interestingly in the states. We've just seen the Congress change a chief minister, and the BJP over the course of this year has changed its chief ministers in at least 4 states, including in its one southern bastion of Karnataka. So you actually have a new guard now emerging in several states of the country, and one of those states is Karnataka, whose chief minister, Mr. Basavaraj Bommai, is here with us. Give him a big hand, ladies and gentlemen, the new chief minister of Karnataka. I can't call you the new chief minister now that you've been there in office for a couple of months, Mr. Bommai. But is that a right way of me to describe what's happening in the BJP in particular? A new guard is taking over in several states. You've actually taken over from someone who for the longest time was seen as the strongman and the mascot of the BJP in Karnataka, B.S. Yediyurappa.
See, change is permanent. And over a period of time, there has been a lot of talk on the age of a politicians, not now, for last 4 or 5 decades. However, the ideologues of BJP have said that you can really work up to 75 actively, and then you have to make way for the new generation. And my leader, Yediyurappa, is such a strong leader, and he's such an active person. He single-handedly built BJP in Karnataka, and he has fought a lot of battles and won a lot of battles for BJP. He is one person who is never tired. But however, he chose that I should pay way for the next generation voluntarily. When he was in helm of affairs, strongly, very well placed, he made way for the next generation. That is the culture what he has been brought in, and that's the culture of BJP.
So you're telling me that Mr. Yediyurappa was not eased out, that it wasn't as if the BJP had consciously decided now that the chief minister is 78, we've already got a Margdarshak Mandal unofficial age of 75, we need to effect a change.
See, Yediyurappa is such a strong leader. I think only he could have decided his future of course of action.
And then when they removed him and brought you in, for some it was a surprise choice. For others it was in a way almost inevitable because you needed one Lingayat to replace another. Would I be right in saying that in Karnataka, the BJP remains even today a Lingayat-centric party? And that was one of the reasons why you as a Lingayat replaced another Lingayat leader.
This kind of narration is always set because the most number of BJP MPs and MLAs get elected from northern Karnataka is predominantly by Lingayats. However, without the support of all classes, no party can come to power. And that's what over the period of time, a lot of people from SC, ST, OBCs have joined the party. They are also contributing a lot. And now the southern bastion, which is a Vakilga dominated, now a lot of people, a lot of youngsters, a lot of MLAs have come. So, of course, it is flagshipped by Lingayat, but however, there is no dearth of all class of people, including Vakilga, OBC and SC, ST. Now it's a party of all classes.
The reason I ask you that, Mr. Chief Minister, is because if there is one state where the BJP has successfully built a bit of a southern fortress, it is Karnataka. If you look across the rest of the south, barring Telangana where you won 4 Lok Sabha seats last time, made a genuine dent, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, you found it much more difficult. What is it about the about Karnataka? Is it the soil of Karnataka, or indeed the fact that you had this Lingayat support base that you were able to build on over the years?
See, if you look back, the history, political history of Karnataka, uh, Karnataka had always strong anti-Congress leaders just after the independence. And that forces were galvanized once Devarajars quit from the scene. A lot of backward classes integrated with the anti-Congress forces. And with the evidence of Ramakrishna Hegde, S.R. Bommai and J.H. Patel and quitting the scene, the same vote bank base shifted to BJP. And BJP did well by gelling very well politically with these classes, including backward classes. And they have been voice of the people with a different kind of background and oppressed classes. And especially two people I have to mention. One is B.S. Yediyurappa, of course, and Anant Kumar. They stitched the political fabric so well that it became a polity of Karnataka.
There is another quality less desirable of your state, which I was going through the numbers. No other state has seen MLAs switching sides as often as Karnataka. 1 in every 3 of your MLAs has been in another party in the last decade. And yet they keep winning elections. They can switch parties and they still win elections.
Yeah,
What is it? Is there, there is this image of Karnataka politicians now where ideology doesn't matter. Someone told me the maximum amount you have to spend in an election, you have to compete between Karnataka and Andhra today.
No.
What has happened? Has money power come and taken over the politics of your state?
Let me tell you the facts. The fact of the matter is, we have got a very strong leadership, be it in erstwhile Congress. Congress divided, and the president was Mr. Nijalingappa. Therefore, people switched on both the sides. Then came Devarajars. Then after that, after he quitting the scene, there was, as I said, a backward class integration with the original Congress people, that is led by Nijalingappa and Virendra Patil. And that's how people say that they have changed sides. Similarly, when Ramakrishna Hegde, S.R. Bommai quit the scene, they were not left with any choice. So they had to join with BJP van. That's how people say that they have changed. But the course of politics and the leadership thereon has really guided all these changes, number one. As far as spending money is concerned, it is there everywhere now. But of course, there are, I should admit that there were lobbies and there are lobbies in Karnataka politics. Earlier there was excise lobby, then came granite lobby, then education lobby. Now, a lot of in between we had mining lobby. So all these lobbies always try to dominate the politics with the money power. That has really disturbed the right kind of polity in Karnataka, not only in Karnataka, in several states.
You're making a very honest statement there as a chief minister, because there's a feeling therefore that no Karnataka chief minister is fully secure. You never know which lobby will try and topple which chief minister then. That's why many chief ministers have struggled to continue for a full 5 years.
But the silver lining is the people of Karnataka always never agreed with this kind of mechanism the lobbies does, and they have always overthrown them and brought back with the people's mandate. That is the silver lining in Karnataka politics. All the credit should go to people of Karnataka.
No, you have a wonderful people. I'm not so sure sometimes, sir, with due regard with the quality of public representatives, when they switch sides. I just want to understand, when you go to sleep every night, are you sure, secure, next morning, nobody's going to try and bring down my government?
See,
Nobody's going to take someone to a resort, someone to a hotel, try and split your state?
As far as I am concerned, I am most secure in mind right from my childhood. But as it is everywhere, that one should really never bother about how long he stays. What he does during his tenure, that is more important. And that's how I get peace of mind.
Interesting, because your father, the late S.R. Bommai, who I knew quite well, was chief minister for just 6 months.
8 months.
8 months. And that was part of that period when there was a lot of instability and chaos. You believe that you will be can I be assured that you will lead your party into the 2023 elections?
See, I'll tell you. During his time, the party which he belonged, that is Janata Dal, didn't have a very strong leadership at the center. Now, with my Prime Minister, Honorable Narendra Modi ji, Amit Shah ji, and even our Nadda ji, we have got a very strong leadership. Not only strong leadership, we have got strong principles. And I am sure with all this behind me, I will not only complete this term, I will lead the Karnataka up front and bring back BJP to power.
Interesting, you said strong center, strong prime minister. There's a feeling that the BJP is becoming like the Congress was in the Indira days, where you had a strong center with Indira Gandhi and weak chief ministers. And the center dictated terms. We've seen Uttarakhand, sir, this year. 3 chief ministers in the space of 3 months. An entire cabinet removed in Gujarat. New chief minister, new ministers. Never happened in the history of this country. Is that how the BJP now will be run? Strong center, weak chief ministers, if I may be allowed to use the word, or chief ministers who are simply there at Delhi's bidding?
See, it's a perception what you are putting into. The reality is, our party is with principles, and everybody, each and everybody, including the Prime Minister, Chief Ministers, follow that principles. Therefore,
Now, what is the principle, sir?
no, I'll tell you, any principle for that matter, age is one factor, and bring in some new fresh air or fresh blood into the whole system, new thoughts to change the present challenges, new persons to change the present challenges. There are a lot of other issues. So it is, what is our party principle is strong center and strong state. That's how the strong nation comes. We can't afford to have a weak center, strong state, or a strong center and a weak state. My BJP principle is strong center and a strong state. That makes a strong nation. And all this, whatever the changes, whatever the timely changes, are the need of the hour, and my party decides it. It is not a question of any dictatorship. It is, in fact, the greatest democracy is in BJP. Regular elections are held for the office bearers right from the booth level to the national level. You look into all other political parties, they never had their elections for decades together. That speaks volume of democracy within BJP. That's why there is democracy in the administration of BJP states also.
So you don't have to turn to Delhi for your decision making.
No.
It isn't Delhi which dictates terms to states and state governments.
See, it is no question of, as far as administration and other things, no question of looking into Delhi. But there are certain issues where you have to consult. Consultation doesn't mean to look upon Delhi or look down Delhi. It is not the issue. There are certain issues where we have to consult, and that consultation is on process always.
Let me give you an example.
And in fact, sometimes center consults us.
Center consults you.
Yes.
Interesting that you say that because
there are certain issues.
Yes.
They like to have a state's view.
Let me give you an issue which has just cropped up, and perhaps one of the first controversies your government has faced, the national education policy. Karnataka has become the first state to implement the new national education policy. Now, your critics are saying that this is imposed by the RSS. That's what the Congress says. They say national education policy, NEP, is actually Nagpur education policy. You're going to teach history as the RSS sees the history of this country, not as the history textbooks have been written so far. And you have come across and said, no, RSS stands for nationalism, stands for nation. How do you see the implementation of this national education policy? Is it your decision or is it Delhi's decision or Nagpur's decision?
I'll answer your first part of question.
Sir.
As far as Congress is concerned, it is a history, party of history. It's a past.
Congress is a party of history.
Yeah, it is part of the history now. Congress is a part of history. It's a part of political history. That's why they only think of history and history which suits them. They have written a history where only it is about the Gandhi family, that is Nehru and Gandhi family, and they have written history only about congressmen. In the Indian independence struggle, we have got through the struggle of peasants, workers, as well as lot of people who have let down their lives, and they are anonymous soldiers who have done it, but they never mentioned about it. Therefore, they want to live with the false history. And as far as education is concerned, see, we are in 21st century. We don't need Macaulay's education system. In fact, Europe itself is changing. The Macaulay is 200 years old education system, and Europe themselves have changed. Now they are seeking change. And to suit the 21st century need, we need a change. In fact, RSS, nothing wrong in saying that RSS the thoughts are national thoughts. What is wrong in it? Compared to Macaulay, we want a change. We want to not only rewrite the wrong things, we are looking into the future. We have got science, we have got technology, we have got artificial intelligence. We want our children, rural children, to face the competition successfully with the international world, international communities all over the world. We have to prepare the children. We can't be looking like a spectators when our children are not given the right kind of education and they have not been prepared very well to face the world. See, what we are giving the next generation, the best thing what we can give is the best education. There was a time when the person who owned the land was ruling the earth. Then came the time where the people with capital and business rule the world. That's what Britishers did. Now, in 21st century, it's an era of knowledge. A person who has got knowledge can dominate all fields in the world.
So are you saying that the existing education system of which you are a product, you're made,
Certainly.
so you are a Macaulay's child. Your father, interestingly, was an HRD minister of this country. If your father was here, would he be comfortable with what you've just said?
See, times have changed. See,
He was Janata Party, Janata Dal.
When my father was there was not this digital world. There was not this, what you call, all this electronic things. And things have changed now. It's a global village here. And as we change, see, I was a part of Macaulay, yes, but I don't want my grandson to be Macaulay education. He should be in tune with the most flexible, modern, and well-equipped, deserving repository of knowledge he should have.
Very interestingly put. An executive with Tata Motors, before he entered politics, is saying, I don't want my children or grandchildren to be Macaulay's children. But just a bit of a googly question. You come from the land of great spinners in Karnataka. Tipu Sultan. How will you, there are conflicting views of how Tipu should be seen in Karnataka. When Siddaramaiah was chief minister, he, celebrated Tipu Jayanti. Will you celebrate a Tipu Jayanti?
See, I'll tell you, any ruler for the past, he has got a lot of good things and bad things. The very fact that when Tipu was ruling, there was huge conversions, not only on Hindus, huge conversions on Christians. You ask a Mangalore Christian, because you might say that you are a Hindu, so you are partition. You ask a Mangalore Christian, he will tell what Tipu was. So that's the perception he has built by his actions.
Will you celebrate it?
I'm telling you, I don't agree with what he has done to the people of his own state, converting the people for his political needs.
Okay. Let me turn to another critical issue that every chief minister now faces, which is the federal, opposition chief ministers, Mr. Bommai, speak about the federal spirit being eroded. They're looking particularly at GST, for example. You've just been put in charge of a committee that's going to look at rationalizing taxes under GST. Do you believe that we need to relook at GST, that as certain opposition chief ministers are saying, GST is eroding the fiscal autonomy of state governments?
See, look here, after a deliberation of more than a decade and looking into the tax systems in different part of the world, we have adopted by 2/3 of majority in the parliament. And this was not introduced once, it was introduced so many times and it went to different committees. The whole issue of GST is that to bring the country into a uniformity in the tax system, as we are now just now discussing outside here, that a state can't have a different taxes. People from the same country should not suffer different taxes. That is the principle behind it. Secondly, there are mechanisms where it has been compensated to the states. And the people who are talking of tax autonomy, there was excise duty earlier, which was put by Government of India. There was central sale tax. What they are talking of autonomy? They were in different forms. Not that there were no central taxes at all before GST. Therefore, to give a political color to the every economic activity is not the right thing to do.
But would you want to relook at the number of slabs? Do you believe the slabs need to be ruled?
Certainly, see, why GST Council has been provided in the Constitution and why they meet regularly to look into the matters where there is a change not only in structure of taxes, in slabs of taxes, even in implementation it, even in digitalization of the taxes and benefit to the consumers, even in prescribed forms there are so many issues. So therefore, there is a regular corrections which are going to take place and these corrections will bring in a lot of changes in the future also. It is there today and it will bring future also. That is the flexibility in GST.
Why don't you
See,
then?
earlier,
Yes, sir.
earlier, the state didn't have a forum to discuss about the central taxes. The then states, I remember that there was a conclave of opposition chief ministers in Bangalore, about 8 opposition states, including Jyoti Basu, N.T. Ramarao, Karnanidhi, my father, everybody was there, asking for re-look into the devolution of taxes, central tax structures. No opportunity was given. Now, a forum has been created by GST Council, where all party-led state governments can express everything what they want, and there will be a conscious decision. What best can happen to a country with so many states having a conscious decisions, especially on economic matters and taxation matters.
You know, you mentioned the importance of uniformity in taxation, for example. Would this uniformity, for example, why not look at it in terms of petroleum? It's an issue which was to be raised in your last meeting. As always, there was very difficult to get a consensus. What is your view?
See, it is
Has the time come, possibly, that when I travel from one state to the other, I shouldn't have to pay very differential taxes on petrol?
See, I'll tell you, petroleum was discussed at large and ultimately it was decided that some powers should be given to the state, at least in few items, especially in hydrocarbons, that's petrol and diesel, and in excise, that is liquors, to have the finances for their own programs and state-based needs. Therefore, that leverage has been given to them. And there is a small sale tax which has been put by the states in different states in a different slabs. But for that, there is a 40% devolution in the petroleum cesses which the Government of India puts. 40% is going to the states. That's how all the states are unanimous, saying that this is one avenue where we get a revenue in such a considered manner, so they don't let it go.
No, you're not letting it go. That's exactly it. Not only are you not letting it go, you're not following your original, you meaning the governments, particularly governments at the center, which had promised that petroleum would be governed by market conditions. That's not happening. You want revenues. And there are only 2 avenues left now for states, petroleum and liquor. I go and pay a differential price in Goa.
Rajdeep, you tell me, how which government or a state can run without revenues?
No, you
Is,
can't.
is revenue a bad word?
No, it's not a bad word. I'm asking you, at a time when global oil prices fall, you continue to allow petroleum prices to rise. At times when
See-
global prices rise, then petroleum prices rise even further.
I'll tell
People
you.
are paying 105 rupees a liter in different states and asking this question. That's all I'm asking.
No. See, that's what a small window has been given to the states. I agree. But the fact of the matter is that petroleum now is a market oriented. International market plays the process. There are a lot of issues into that. But however, states needs a small window to implement their own projects. They implement their own programs, which are state based.
Two small final questions. The Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu has now written to several chief ministers saying, let's not have an all India NEET exam. We want every state should be allowed to have their own medical exam. This NEET exam is unfair to students from rural parts of the country. Do you agree with him?
See, look
Now, I
here.
want a bipartisan answer, not as a BJP chief minister only.
No. I'll certainly be very true. But you should also, what I say now, you should cross check. The fact of the matter is, Tamil Nadu never had a competitive exam in the state. It is just marks based. Whereas in states like Karnataka and many other states, where we got a common entrance exam, CET,
Yes.
where children from all walks of life can compete to any college. In states where there is no competitive exams, the lot of percentage is management quotas, where only privileged class can go and have a education there. Now, not only in Karnataka, throughout country, because of NEET, NEET is nothing new for us. It's an extension of CET for us. We have allowed not only boys from and girls from Karnataka, even people from Bihar, UP used to have a CET exam
So you
in
believe
Karnataka.
NEET should continue?
NEET should continue. NEET is one thing which gives opportunity, and what NEET does, it is one exam, one competitive exam. Instead of having, okay, I got a examination date in Karnataka, I got examination date in Tamil Nadu, I got same date in Punjab, how can the children go? Think about the children. And Tamil Nadu, which doesn't have a experience of common entrance,
Sure.
then what right it can have?
Mr. Chief Minister, I have your medical education minister here, who only last week was honored with the awards at India Today's Health Giri for the best performance in combating COVID. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
But I have a concern. There are students in Davangere who write to me every night. Last year they didn't get their stipends, even though they were working night and day during COVID. Finally, after a campaign that we ran, they got their stipends. Now again, they're not getting it. Can you guarantee me from this forum that within the next week they will get their basic stipend, sir? It's a college run by a politician, like most medical colleges are in your state, sir.
See, it is a case of one college. The entire state, all our children who have worked, medical college students who have worked for COVID have got the stipend. This is one-off case where I had a meeting other day and I've asked the college management to pay within 1 week and they have agreed, and I'll see that they pay the stipend within 1 week.
You will ensure that they'll be paid within 1 week. That's wonderful news. If the students are listening, they'll be delighted to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you one personal question. I have traveled through your beautiful state. It is easily the most beautiful state in the country. Are you going to make tourism in Karnataka a top priority? You know, if I want to travel to Gokarna, I have to go to Goa and drive up. If I want to go to see beautiful parts of your state, it's difficult to reach at times. Accessibility is a huge issue. Are you going to change that? Is that going to be a priority? Will Karnataka be India's #1 tourism state?
Rajdeep, it's a good news for you. The change is on. And the change is, you have talked about Gokarna. We are having a new airport near Karwar, which is very near to Gokarna.
Yes.
And there is a naval cum civilian airport. It's already started. We have acquired land. and probably this year we're going to start the work. Within 1.5 to 2 years, we'll have a air base there for civilians also. So you can just fly into Gokarna.
Hampi.
Hampi, yes. There also we are having, already we have got one airport at Thorangal, and we are planning airstrip especially for Hampi, and more than that, we are going to have a heli tourism into the Hampi circuit. So you can fly to Hampi also.
Mr. Bommai, in conclusion, few people know about you, your other parts of your life. You've been a Tata Motors executive, became an industrialist, and then joined politics after your father retired, which is important. Unlike other sons of politicians, you actually joined politics after your father retired. I believe you're a cricket fan as well.
Just a small correction, I had joined
Politics, but you became a minister.
Became minister after his demise.
After his demise. You are also an avid cricket fan.
Yeah.
Your favorite cricketer?
My favorite cricketer is Gundappa Vishwanath.
Your favorite cricketer, like a good Kannadiga, I couldn't expect you to say something.
No. By looking into the character of Vishwanath, he is a perfect player, perfect batsman, and a perfect gentleman.
Like most Karnataka politicians are, I guess it's your lovely weather that makes you...
And secondly,
yes,
I am an ardent fan of your father, Dilip Sardesai.
thank you very much.
And those days we didn't have TV, but I used to stick to the radio where he hit 212 runs outside India for the first time, first Indian.
I don't know how many chief ministers would know that, so that gives you a lot of plus marks in my diary.
And I remember his favorite sweep shot.
Mr. Chief Minister, you clearly know how to woo the media,
Yeah.
which is one good quality to always have.
See, no. If Rajdeep is there, then it's very easy to.
Mr. Bommai, I wish you very well. As I said, you are in a chair, which, as you know,
I know.
is a tough one to handle. But I'm sure with your easy, calm demeanor and charming smile, you'll be able to win over the people of Karnataka. I wish you well.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Basavaraj Bommai, Chief Minister of Karnataka.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Thank you, Mr. Sardesai. May I please call upon Mr. Umesh Revankar, Vice Chairperson and Managing Director, Shriram Transport Finance Company Limited, to come up on stage and present a small token of our appreciation to the Chief Minister. A warm applause, please. Do put your hands together.